September 24, 1940. The Vickers Armstrong's design office, Weybridge, Surrey. The steady drumming of rain against the blackout curtained windows is the only sound, save for the whisper of a pencil across tracing paper. The air smells of graphite, damp wool, and stale tea. This is the domain of Barnes Wallis, head of research and development. He is a man of precise, gentle manners, but behind his spectacles burns an obsessive, almost manic engineering intellect. He's currently sketching a Colossus, a 6-engine strategic bomber, the Victory bomber, so vast it makes the current Lancaster look like a toy. It's designed to carry a single theoretical weapon, a 10-ton earthquake bomb, built to penetrate deep into the earth before detonating, striking at foundations, tunnels, and viaducts. An Air Ministry liaison, Group Captain Winter, shifts impatiently in his chair. He's here to discuss Wallis's other successful design, the Wellington. But Wallis is monologuing about strategic destruction. If you want to shorten the war, Group Captain, Wallis murmurs, not looking up from his draft, you must destroy the enemy's means to wage it. Not the factories, but the power. Winter seizes the opening. He unrolls a reconnaissance photograph and slaps it onto the desk, covering the drawing of the giant bomber. It's a high-altitude shot, stark black and white, showing a vast lake curving through a steep forested valley. At one end, a massive, elegant crescent of concrete and stone. Then look at this, Barnes. The moon, a dam. Wallis adjusts his glasses. The image is clear. He can see the power station at the foot of the dam, the spillways, the surrounding anti-aircraft flak towers. The heart of the Ruhr, Winter says, his voice low. It provides the water and hydroelectric power for Krupp, for Thyssen, for the entire arsenal of the Third Reich. We've tried. Bomber Command has sent Sterlings and Halifaxes. They can't get low enough for accuracy, and from 15,000 feet, a 4,000-pound cookie just splashes. It's useless. He taps a faint, spidery web of lines visible just under the surface of the reservoir, and they know it's a target. Look, torpedo nets stretching the entire length of the reservoir, 50 feet deep. Nothing can get to the wall. Wallis leans in, his gaze fixed not on the concrete wall but on the flat gray expanse of the water in front of it. He runs a finger along the surface of the photograph. A mine, Wallis says almost to himself. A massive one. Detonated at the base, the hydrostatic pressure, the tamping effect of the water, would multiply the force exponentially. A mine? Winter scoffs. How? Drop it from a plane, it shatters. Drop it on a parachute, it drifts. And even if you could place it, the nets... Wallis looks up, his eyes distant. He's no longer in the room. He's remembering something from his youth years ago. A childhood memory. Skipping stones across a pond. The nets only protect against an object under the water, Wallis says slowly. They don't protect against an object. On top of it, Winter stares baffled. What are you talking about? Wallis picks up his pencil. He pushes the reconnaissance photo aside, grabs a clean sheet of paper, and draws a simple circle. A stone. Then he draws a line hitting the water and bouncing. They've defended it like a battleship, Group Captain, Wallis says, a strange, excited energy entering his voice. But they've forgotten the first rule of naval warfare. Nelson at the Battle of the Nile. Where you can swing a ship, you can swing another. He looks back at the photo. They've left us a pathway. The water itself. October 1st, 1940. The back garden of Barnes Wallis's home, White Hill House, in Effingham, Surrey. It is a crisp autumn afternoon. Wallis's children, Mary and Barnes Jr., are watching their father with quiet confusion. He is kneeling at the edge of the large concrete water tank he'd built in the garden, part static water supply for firefighting, part swimming pool. He is not sketching. He is not calculating. He is playing with marbles. He flicks one, side-armed, at the flat, still water. The marble hits the surface, skips, once, twice, and then sinks abruptly. Blast, he mutters. He tries again. This time he throws it harder, lower. The marble hits the water and vanishes without a single skip, sending up a tiny plink of water. He tries an overhand throw. It dives. He's been at this for an hour. The Nelson concept was brilliant in the office. Here in the garden, physics is proving a stubborn opponent. The scale is wrong. A stone thrown by a boy has a certain velocity and mass, a 9,000-pound mine dropped from an aircraft. The forces are completely different. He hears the back door open. His wife Molly stands there, a cup of tea in her hand. Still at it, Barnes? she asks, her voice a mixture of affection and weary tolerance for his obsessive nature. It must work, Molly. The angle of incidence is the key. But it's not just the angle, it tumbles. He gestures angrily at the tank. It strikes the water, and the impact force makes it pitch forward. It digs in. He goes inside, marching past her. She follows him to the upstairs bathroom. He turns on the taps, the pipes groaning as he begins to fill the tub. He retrieves a small wooden catapult he'd built for his son. Barnes, the children need... In a moment, dear. I need... stability. He clamps the catapult to the side of the tub. He places a marble in the sling, pulls it back and releases it. Twang. The marble shoots across the 4 feet of water, slams into the porcelain at the far end, and shatters. Confound it, Molly sighs. Perhaps a different shape? Wallis stops. He looks at her, then at the broken marble. Shape, yes, of course. He leaves the bathroom, returning minutes later not with a marble but with a small, wooden sphere he's whittled flat on 2 sides, creating a rough cylinder like a drafts piece. He places it in the catapult. Twang. The wooden cylinder hits the water, skips chaotically and stops. Better, he mutters. It's not pitching, but it's losing energy too fast. The drag. His gaze falls on a ball of string. An idea forms. He takes another wooden cylinder and painstakingly wraps the string around it, over and over tightly. He places it back in the catapult, but this time, he holds the end of the string. He pulls the trigger. Twang. The string unwinds violently as the cylinder flies, spinning rapidly backwards in the air. The spinning cylinder hits the water. It doesn't sink. It doesn't tumble. It skitters. It races across the entire length of the bathtub in a fraction of a second, spraying a fine mist, and hits the far end with a solid thwack. Wallis stares, water dripping from his face. Backspin, he whispers. The word is an epiphany. My God, Molly, backspin! He grabs her hands, his eyes electric. Don't you see? It's not a skipping stone. It's a golf ball. The backspin creates a cushion of air and water beneath it. It climbs off the surface. The gyroscopic stability, it will keep it level. It will work. He runs to his study, dripping water on the hall carpet. He snatches a new sheet of paper and begins a frantic calculation. Spin rate, RPM relative to forward velocity. Gyroscopic stabilization. Hydrostatic pressure wave. 2 days later, he is in a drab meeting room at the Air Ministry. Across the table sits Sir Charles Craven, chairman of Vickers, and an assortment of skeptical, uniformed officials, and thus the backspin, imparted at roughly 500 revolutions per minute, will ensure the mine's axis remains parallel to the water, Wallis explains, tapping his calculations. This allows for multiple predictable hops before it strikes the dam wall. An RAF Air Commodore clears his throat. Mr. Wallis, this is fascinating. A 9,000-pound spinning bomb, dropped from a heavy bomber flying at precisely 60 feet at 240 miles per hour? It's preposterous. How do you propose to spin it? How do you propose a pilot flies at 60 feet at night over a hostile reservoir? Wallis meets his gaze, unflinching. I am an engineer, Air Commodore. The physics are sound. If you will provide the facility, I will provide the weapon. The rest is merely a matter of application. The room is silent. The application sounds utterly impossible, but in the desperate winter of 1940, with Britain standing alone, impossible is a word they can no longer afford. A quiet nod from Craven. He will have his facility, a small one, at Ashley Walk in the New Forest. See what your bouncing toy can do, Barnes, but do not waste our time. December 14th, 1941. Ashley Walk Testing Range, New Forest. The air is bitter, stinging the skin. A brutal wind shears across the frozen heath, carrying the drone of a single Vickers Wellington bomber circling overhead. Barnes Wallis stands beside a concrete bunker, his coat collar turned up, his knuckles white as he grips a field telephone. Beside him, his assistant, Robert Summers, stomps his feet to keep warm. They are observing a critical test. Not of the bouncing principle, not yet. This is a test of casing. Bomber, now! Wallis shouts into the receiver. High above, a black shape detaches from the Wellington. It is a half-scale 4,000-pound cylinder, an inert dummy mine. It has no spin mechanism. This is purely to see if the casing can survive the impact. It whistles down, growing larger, and strikes the frozen surface of the test lake. The impact is catastrophic. It does not penetrate. It does not bounce. It cartwheels. The thin metal casing disintegrates on contact, shedding pieces of metal and wood packing like shrapnel. The central core, a solid lump of iron, leaps sideways, skipping 3 times in wild, random directions before disappearing into the gorse a quarter-mile away. A heavy silence falls, broken only by the wind and the fading engine of the Wellington. A tall figure in an RAF greatcoat lowers his binoculars. Air Marshal Sir Arthur Bomber Harris, the new Commander-in-Chief of Bomber Command, turns to Wallis. His face is granite. "Mr. Wallis," Harris's voice is low, clipping every word. "You have just invented the world's most expensive game of ducks and drakes. It is uncontrollable, it is inaccurate, and it breaks apart. You are wasting my fuel, my aircraft, and my time. Shut it down." Harris doesn't wait for a reply. He turns on his heel and strides toward his waiting staff car. "Sir," Wallis calls out, half running after him. "Sir, that was without the gyroscopic stabilization." "The backspin is the key. It must have the backspin." Harris stops, turning just enough to fix Wallis with an icy stare. "Backspin? And how precisely do you propose to spin a 4-ton mine at 500 revolutions per minute inside my bomber and then drop it? Are you quite mad?" "I want bombers, Wallis. Not spinning tops." The car door slams. The engine roars and the vehicle disappears down the muddy track. Wallis stands alone, the wind whipping his coat. The project is dead. All his calculations, the bathtub, the catapults. For nothing. Summers comes to his side. "Barnes, what do we do now?" Wallis stares at the departing car, then up at the Wellington, now just a speck. He's thinking of the bomber's engines. The power. The sheer raw mechanical power. Spin it. Inside the aircraft, Wallis says, his voice barely a whisper. He thinks it's impossible. A new, fierce light comes into his eyes. He's not looking at the wreck. He's looking at the bomber. "We don't drop it from the bomb bay. We mount it. Across the bomb bay." He grabs Summers's arm, his grip surprisingly strong. "We rip the bomb bay doors clean off. We build a cradle, 2 V-shaped arms, and the motor. We don't add a motor. We use one. We run a hydraulic drive, directly off the port inner Merlin engine. We'll spin it up to speed before we release it. This isn't just a new bomb. It's a fundamental, monstrous redesign of Britain's best heavy bomber. He isn't just an inventor anymore. He's about to become an aircraft designer and a colossal nuisance to the entire RAF." February 26, 1942. A wind-blasted hangar at RAF Manston, Kent. The aircraft is Type 464, provisioning. But to the mechanics huddled by a smoking brazier, she's just ED-825, a brand-new Avro Lancaster Mk3rd, pulled straight from the production line at Woodford. And they are watching, horrified, as she is systematically butchered. Barnes Wallis, oblivious to their stares, is conferring with a grimy-faced Avro engineer, Roy Chadwick. Chadwick, the Lancaster's designer, looks like a man witnessing his own child undergo a barbaric operation. "It's not just the doors, Barnes," Chadwick says, his voice strained over the shriek of a metal saw. "You've had us cut out the central fuselage bulkhead. You've taken out the entire mid-gun turret. You're compromising the longitudinal strength of the entire airframe." "We must," Wallis replies, tapping his blueprints. "The mine is 9,000 pounds. It is 10 feet long and 5 feet in diameter. It has to fit. There is no other way." A team of Vickers engineers is wrestling with a complex hydraulic motor. A tangle of high-pressure pipes snakes from the new mechanism into the wing root. Heading for the number 2 engine, the port inner Rolls-Royce Merlin. And this, Chadwick points to the hydraulic rig, this is madness. Tapping the Merlin's own hydraulics to spin that thing. You'll rob the engine of power. Worse, you'll rob the main hydraulic system. What happens when the pilot needs his flaps or his undercarriage, and you're spinning a 4-ton mine at 500 RPM? "It will be engaged for no more than 10 minutes, Wallis says, ever the academic. "The pilot will be informed. It's a calculated risk." The mechanics watch as the massive 33-foot-long bomb bay doors are unceremoniously hauled away for scrap. The Lancaster now has a gaping, exposed wound in its belly. In its place, the engineers begin hoisting the V-shaped calipers, the cradle that will hold the mine, codenamed Upkeep. The whole thing looks wrong. It's crude. It's asymmetric. It has destroyed the bomber's sleek, deadly profile, turning it into a pregnant, awkward beast. A young flight engineer, disgusted, mutters to his mate, He's ruined her. Taken a perfectly good lank and turned it into a what? Wallis overhears. He walks over, his expression uncharacteristically severe. "Young man," Wallis says, his voice quiet but sharp. "You see a ruined aircraft. I see the only aircraft in the world capable of carrying the weapon that will shorten this war. Every cut, every removed rivet is a necessary sacrifice." He gestures to the gaping hole. "Now we must calibrate the motor. I want 500 revolutions per minute precisely, and it must hold that speed for 15 minutes without shearing the drive shaft." The mechanics share a dark look. 15 minutes? That hydraulic system will boil. Chadwick just closes his eyes as if in prayer. The first test of the system is about to begin, and it might not even get off the ground. March 13th, 1943. The cockpit of Lancaster ED-825, 2,000 feet over the Kent coast. The pilot, Captain H.A. Mutt Summers, Vickers' chief test pilot, grips the yoke. His knuckles are white. He and his co-pilot, Flight Lieutenant Bob Hay, are not flying a bomber. They are wrestling a beast. The Lancaster, its belly exposed to the elements, handles like a lorry with 3 wheels. The wind screams up through the empty bomb bay, a constant deafening roar that penetrates their leather helmets. "Right." Mutt's voice crackles over the intercom, clipped and steady. "Bomb aimer. Engage the drive. Spin her up. Half speed." In the nose, the engineer flips a guarded switch. Deep in the aircraft's belly, the hydraulic motor engages the massive 9,000-pound dummy mine. It begins to turn. A low-frequency hum starts, a wub-wub-wub that seems to come from everywhere at once. Speed, 250 RPM. The engineer calls out, his voice tight. "My God," Hay mutters, his eyes scanning the engine instruments. The needles on the number 2 engine gauges are flickering. She feels loose, the whole airframe. "Full speed," Mutt orders. "Take her to 500. The engineer pushes the lever. The wub-wub-wub escalates into a violent harmonic thrum. The entire 30-ton aircraft begins to shudder. The instrument panel vibrates so intensely the needles are a blur. A fine mist of hydraulic oil, atomized by the vibration, begins to fill the cockpit. It's shaking the compass loose. Hay shouts, I can't read the instruments." 500 RPM. The engineer yells, his voice straining. She's holding, but the oil pressure in the drive is spiking. "Shut it down." "Shut it down now," Mutt roars. The engineer cuts the power. The vibration slowly fades, replaced by the normal rattling roar of the 4 Merlins. The crew sits in stunned silence, the smell of hot oil thick in their lungs. Mutt Summers gets on the radio to the airfield. His voice is lethally calm. "Get Mr. Wallis to the debriefing room. We need to have a word." Back on the tarmac at RAF Manston, a pale Barnes Wallis stands as Mutt Summers, his face black with oil residue, climbs down the ladder. "Barnes," Mutt says, pulling off his helmet. He doesn't shout. "That thing is going to kill us. It's not just a vibration. It's a resonance. It is shaking your Lancaster to pieces. The compass is useless. The altimeter is unreadable. You are asking men to fly 60 feet above the water at night, in a machine that is actively trying to disintegrate around them. It cannot be done." Wallis is ashen. All his calculations, all the modifications, undone by a simple, brutal harmonic. It must be the mounting," Wallis stammers. "The calipers. Perhaps if we balance it more finely." "Balance it? It's a 4-ton mine, Barnes. Not a bicycle wheel." Mutt snaps. He turns to the ground crew. "Check every rivet on the port wing and tailplane. I'll wager half of them are loose." He turns back to Wallis. "You have one more test. We'll drop it once over the sea at Reculver, then, if that doesn't work, I am grounding this aircraft. For good." Wallis looks at the monstrous, silent mine, still nestled in the belly of the Lancaster. He has solved the spin. He has solved the delivery. But in doing so, he has created a weapon that may destroy the aircraft before it ever reaches a target. April 13th, 1943. Reculver Bay. Kent Coast. Barnes Wallis stands on the shingle beach, shielding his eyes against the sharp sea glare. He is freezing, but he doesn't notice. His entire world has shrunk to a single oncoming speck in the sky. It is Lancaster ED-825. In the cockpit, Mutt Summers fights the controls. The air is choppy this close to the water. His co-pilot, Bob Hay, is staring at a new, crude device fixed to the windscreen. 2 angled nails forming a simple V. When the 2 distant towers of the Reculver Church line up perfectly in the V, they'll be at the correct range. But the real terror is the altitude. 60 feet, Hay calls out. his eyes glued to the modified altimeter. Drifting. 5 feet low, Mutt. I'm fighting it. Summers barks. Flying a 30-ton bomber this low at 240 miles per hour is like trying to thread a needle in an earthquake. The sea's surface, a gray metallic blur, rushes past just feet below them. Stand by to spin. Summers orders. Engineer. Engage the drive. On the beach, Wallis hears the engine note change. It's not just the sound of the 4 Merlins. It's the high-frequency howl of the hydraulic motor spooling up. Inside the cockpit, the vibration returns. It slams into them, a physical, bone-jarring assault. The instrument panel blurs. 500 RPM. The engineer shouts over the din. She's holding. Mark! Hay yells as the church towers align. Bomb gone! Summers roars, thumbing the red release button on the yoke. For a terrifying second, there's a jolt. The Lancaster, suddenly 9,000 pounds lighter, leaps upward. Summers shoves the yoke forward, fighting to keep her from stalling. Back on the beach, Wallis holds his breath. A black cylinder, spinning violently, detaches from the bomber. It falls. It strikes the water a half-mile from shore. There is no explosion. There is no chaotic tumble. Instead, there is a sound Wallis has only ever dreamed of. A giant ripping zzz, thwack. The mine hits the surface and erupts in a plume of white spray. It vanishes for a second, then leaps from the water, still spinning, perfectly level. It flies 80 yards, hits the surface again, zzz, thwack, and leaps again, and again, and again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wallis counts aloud, his voice trembling. The mine, looking for all the world like a massive, skipping stone, races toward the shore. It makes a final massive leap, clears the shingle, and slams, intact, into the soft clay bank at the back of the beach, finally burying itself. There is a total, profound silence, broken only by the receding roar of the Lancaster. Mutt Summers circles the aircraft back, flying high. He looks down at the sea. From his altitude, he can see the footprints, a perfect, dead straight line of 5 massive concentric white rings of foam on the water's surface, leading directly to the buried mine on the shore. His voice crackles over the radio to the observation post on the beach. It's hoarse with disbelief. Mr. Wallis, are you seeing this? Wallis fumbles for the transmitter, his eyes streaming with tears that are not from the wind. Yes, Mutt, he chokes out. Yes, God help us. It works. He looks at the line of foam. The principle is proven. The weapon is a reality. A chilling new thought strikes him. He has built an impossible weapon. Now they need an impossible squadron. They need men who can do what Mutt Summers just did. Fly a disintegrating bomber at 60 feet in the dark, into the most heavily defended airspace in the world. March 21, 1943. RAF Scampton, Lincolnshire. The base is windswept, cold, and miserable. A steady drizzle sweeps across the flat expanse of the airfield. In a drafty Nissen hut, 25 of the most experienced air crews in Bomber Command are assembled. They are not volunteers. They have been pulled without explanation from their own squadrons in 5 group, just as they were completing their combat tours. The mood is mutinous. They are veterans. They know this kind of secrecy means one of 2 things: a suicide mission or a pointless political stunt. The door bangs open. A man strides in, water dripping from the peak of his service cap. He is impossibly young, just 24, but the ribbons on his tunic tell a different story. Distinguished Service Order, DSO. Distinguished Flying Cross, DFC, and BAR. He has over 170 operations to his name. This is Wing Commander Guy Gibson. He doesn't smile. He doesn't welcome them. He steps onto the small platform and surveys the room, his dark eyes missing nothing. He is accompanied by his black Labrador Nigger, who sits dutifully at his feet. Right, Gibson's voice cuts through the murmuring. It's sharp, precise, and carries an unmistakable edge of command. You are all here because you are the best. Or so I'm told. I am Wing Commander Gibson. He pauses, letting the silence stretch. This is a new squadron. It does not have a name. For now it is Squadron X. It does not have a defined role. That is also secret. A pilot at the back, Flight Lieutenant Mick Martin, leans over to his navigator. What's this then? A bloody mystery tour? Gibson's head snaps toward the sound. This is not a game, Martin. You are all here for one reason. A special, low-level operation. You will train for it and you will perfect it. Your lives will be training, Nothing else, no leave. No letters out that aren't censored by me, personally. The base is sealed. As of now, the room erupts. No leave? Sealed? What about our families? Low level? We're heavy bomber crews, sir. Gibson raises one hand. The room falls silent. You will be flying a modified Lancaster, he continues, his voice like ice. You will be flying it at night at treetop level. Precisely, not 200 feet. Not 100 feet. You will fly at an altitude that will be uncomfortable. You will practice this every day and every night until I am satisfied. He picks up his gloves and slaps them against his palm. I did not ask for you. You did not ask for me. But you are mine, and I will lead you on this operation. Anyone who does not feel they are up to that standard, anyone who has a crisis of conscience or who feels lack of moral fiber, can stand up and leave now. You'll be in a glass house by morning. No one moves. These are not cowards. They are confused, angry, but they are professionals. Good, Gibson says with the barest hint of a nod. Your aircraft are being delivered. They are unique. You will see them this afternoon. Dismissed. The crews file out, buzzing with questions. Gibson remains. He walks to the window, watching the rain. He has just over 7 weeks. The date for the operation, he's been told, is dictated by the full moon. Mate, he has to train these men to fly a 30-ton bomber at 60 feet, at night over water, holding a perfect speed and a perfect altitude, all while carrying a weapon he himself is not yet allowed to fully understand. He doesn't just need pilots. He needs flying gods. April 10, 1943. Ibrook Reservoir, Leicestershire. The surface of the reservoir is a flat gray mirror under a leaden sky. Wing Commander Gibson, flying Lancaster G for George, thunders across the water. His co-pilot, Flight Lieutenant Harrop, is sweating, his hands ghosting the yoke. Altitude? Gibson snaps. 100. No, 90 feet. No, it's lagging. Harrop shouts. I think we're at 50, sir. Useless. Gibson roars, pulling back gently on the yoke. The bomber lifts its own prop wash, tearing the water into a white froth behind them. A barometric altimeter, which measures air pressure, is designed for thousands of feet. Down here in the ground cushion, it's a liar. A 10-foot error, a moment's inattention, and the 30-ton aircraft will cartwheel into a fireball. He banks the Lancaster hard, the G-force pressing them into their seats, and lines up for another pass. Mick, you try. He radios to Flight Lieutenant Mick Martin, flying in another Lancaster nearby. See if you can hold her. Martin's voice crackles back, strained. Trying, Skipper. It's like balancing on a pin. The water? There's no reference. It all looks the same. I'm drifting 20 feet up and down. We can't do this. Not at night. We'll kill ourselves. Gibson lands and storms into the makeshift briefing hut on the shore. Barnes Wallis is there, along with several men from the Air Ministry's scientific branch. Your weapon works, Mr. Wallis, Gibson says, throwing his helmet onto the table, but it's irrelevant. We cannot deliver it. My best pilots, the best in the command, cannot maintain 60 feet for more than a few seconds. In broad daylight. At night over a hostile lake with flak. It's suicide. Your entire project is dead in the water. The room is silent. The scientists look at their feet. Then a quiet voice comes from the back. It's a man from the Royal Aircraft Establishment, Dr. B.G. Dickens. He's been watching the trials. Wing Commander, Dickens says. The problem isn't the flying. It's the seeing. You're right, the altimeter is useless, so we don't use it. Gibson turns impatient. What do you suggest, Doctor? A piece of string? Light, Dickens says, unfazed. He grabs a piece of chalk and draws a simple triangle on a blackboard. Triangulation. We mount 2 spotlights, one under the aircraft's nose, one under the aft fuselage. We angle them. So, he draws 2 lines converging from the base of the triangle. They are precisely calibrated. When the 2 beams of light, the 2 spots on the water, merge into a single figure 8, your aircraft is not at 59 feet nor 61. It is at exactly 60 feet. Gibson stares at the drawing. It's absurd. It's ingenious. You're asking us to fly over the most heavily defended part of Germany, Gibson says slowly, with our lights on. Yes, Dickens replies, but you will be at the correct altitude. 2 days later, Lancaster G for George takes off again. 2 circular holes have been cut in her fuselage, housing powerful spotlights. It is dusk. Gibson flies over the Ibrook Reservoir. The bomb aimer, Flight Sergeant Pulford, lies in the nose, his eyes glued to the dark water. Lights are two distinct circles, sir. You're too high. 80 feet, 70. Coming down. The circles are touching. Steady, steady. Mark, we have a figure 8. 60 feet. Gibson holds the yoke, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He can feel the aircraft is right. He can fly by the bomb aimer's voice. Hold it. Hold it, Pulford murmurs. Still a perfect 8. Still good. Still good. Gibson flies the entire 2-mile length of the reservoir without the altimeter needle moving from the 60 mark. He lands, his mind racing. He finds Dickens. It works. It's brilliant. Now, one more problem. A conventional bomb sight is useless. It's designed to drop from 10,000 feet. We're dropping from 60 feet. How does my bomb aimer know when to release? How does he judge the range? April 22, 1943. A briefing room at RAF Scampton. The room is thick with chalk dust. Barnes Wallis stands before a blackboard, which is covered in complex trajectory calculations. Guy Gibson, Mick Martin, and a handful of the other senior pilots and bomb aimers are watching him. So we have the height, Gibson says, recapping the breakthrough. The spotlights give us 60 feet. We have the speed. The pilots will hold 240 miles harder. But the range... Mr. Wallis, how does my man in the nose know when we are 425 yards from a 50-foot-high wall in the dark at 240 miles per hour? He points to the blackboard. Your math is perfect. But a man can't calculate that in the 3 seconds he's on the run-in. A bomb sight is useless. It's built for 10,000 feet, not 60. Wallis nods. He reaches into his briefcase and pulls out a piece of wood. It's a simple Y-shaped frame like a catapult with a small eyepiece at the base and 2 prongs at the top. The pilots stare. All this science, all this secrecy. For a toy. You are correct, Wing Commander, Wallis says. We cannot calculate it, so we must see it. He holds up the wooden sight. This is your bomb sight. Your bomb aimer will look through this eyepiece. The 2 prongs are set at a precise angle. We have studied the reconnaissance photographs of the primary targets. The Moon-a-Dam, for instance, has 2 distinctive flat-topped towers on its crest. He gestures to a large photo pinned to the wall. Those towers have a known fixed width. When your bomb aimer flying at exactly 60 feet looks through this sight, he will see the towers grow as he approaches. At the exact moment, the 2 towers align perfectly with the tips of these 2 prongs. When the prongs frame the towers, he is at the precise release distance. 425 yards. He doesn't think. He doesn't calculate. He just shouts now. Mick Martin lets out a low whistle. A 10-bob piece of plywood. You're staking the entire raid on a piece of plywood. I am staking it, Wallis replies calmly, on the immutable laws of trigonometry, which I assure you are far more reliable than a barometric altimeter. The next day, over the Ibrook Reservoir, they test it. 2 marker buoys have been set in the water, 600 feet apart, simulating the Moona's towers. Flight Sergeant Pulford is in the nose of Gibson's Lancaster. Gibson brings the bomber in, low and fast. The roar of the Merlins echoes off the water. Lights are good. Pulford's voice crackles high with tension. Figure 8 is locked. 60 feet. Speed 238. 240. Holding. Gibson is rock steady on the controls. I have the markers in the sight, Pulford calls. They're inside the prongs. They're widening. Coming up. Coming up. Steady now. Gibson's thumb stabs the release. An inert concrete-filled dummy mine drops from the belly, spins up and hits the water. Zzz. Thwack. It bounces once, twice, 3 times, and smacks into a rope barrier strung exactly 425 yards from the towers. A direct hit. In the cockpit, Gibson and his co-pilot just look at each other. It worked. The spotlights, the wooden triangle, the mad spinning mine. The impossible method was complete. Now all they had to do was fly it. For real. May 16, 1943. 18 doors hours. The main briefing room, RAF Scampton. The room is packed. Every crew from 617 Squadron is present. The men crammed onto wooden benches. The air is blue with cigarette smoke, thick with the nervous energy of men who know tonight is the night. The months of relentless, brutal training, the secrecy, the sealed base, it all ends here. Wing Commander Guy Gibson stands on the platform, his face pale and set under the harsh electric lights. Beside him, Air Vice Marshal Cochrane, the commander of 5 Group, looks on grimly. At the back of the room, almost hidden in the shadows, sits Barnes Wallis. He looks like a provincial schoolmaster, utterly out of place, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles are white. Right, Gibson says, his voice cutting through the hush. This is it. An NCO pulls the cord on a huge curtain covering the wall map. The curtain slides back, revealing a massive detailed map of Western Germany. Red ribbons are pinned to it, snaking from Scampton across the Channel and deep into the industrial heart of the Third Reich. The ribbons all converge on one small, heavily marked area, the Ruhr Valley, a collective intake of breath. This is the most heavily defended airspace on Earth, the Flak Valley. For the past 7 weeks, Gibson says, picking up a long wooden pointer. You've been training for a special target. You've wondered what it is. You're about to find out. He taps the pointer on a location. Your primary targets are here, and here. A stunned silence falls on the room. The men are staring not at a factory, not at a rail yard, not at a city. They are staring at reconnaissance photos of massive, curving stone walls. The Möhne and Eder dams, these, Gibson says, his voice ringing with a cold, clear finality, are the great dams of the Ruhr. They provide the water and power for the entire German war machine. Krupp, Thyssen, the lot. Without them, the German arsenal grinds to a halt. He looks around the room, meeting their eyes. Bomber Command has tried. They've dropped 8,000-pounders on them. It's done nothing. Conventional weapons are useless. He gestures to Wallis at the back. Mr. Wallis has built us an unconventional weapon. You've all been practicing with it. You know what it can do. The men are connecting the dots. The 60-foot altitude. The 240 MF speed. The insane low-level flying. It wasn't just training. It was a specific, literal rehearsal. Flight Lieutenant Hoppy Hopgood whispers to his navigator, "My God, he wants us to fly at them. At 60 feet. The Möhne Dam," Gibson continues, tapping the photo, "is protected by flak towers on the dam itself and heavy batteries on the hillsides. It is fully netted against torpedoes. But our weapon, as you know, does not go through the nets. It goes over them." He lays out the attack. 3 waves. The first, led by Gibson himself, will strike the Möhne. If that is breached, they will fly on to the Eder. A second wave, led by Flight Lieutenant Joe McCarthy, will attack the Sorpe Dam. A different type. An earth dam requiring a different non-spinning drop. A third wave will be a mobile reserve. This is not a precision bombing raid from 20,000 feet, Gibson says, his voice dropping. This is a bayonet charge. You will fly to the target at 100 feet. On the reservoirs, you will go down to 60. You will have your lights on. You will be seen. The flak will be intense, but you must be precise. Not 59 feet, not 61, exactly 60. Not 230 Mbps, exactly 240. Or the weapon will fail. He looks at the clock on the wall. 20 hours. Briefing for navigators and gunners in 10 minutes. Takeoff is at 21:30. Any questions? There are none. The sheer audacious, terrifying simplicity of the plan has left them speechless. They finally understand. They are the only men in the world, flying the only aircraft in the world, carrying the only weapon in the world that can do this job. Barnes Wallis watches them file out. He sees the young faces, strained, some pale, but all set with a grim resolve. His bouncing bomb, a concept born in his bathtub, is now a reality. And tonight these boys will carry his idea into hell. May 16, 1943. 21:28 hours. Dispersal pad, RAF Scampton. The night air is cold, but inside the cockpit of Lancaster ED-932, G for George, it's suffocatingly close. The air is alive, thrumming with the sound of 76 Rolls-Royce Merlin engines idling, 19 aircraft, 19 crews, all preparing to launch. The moonlight is so bright it casts sharp black shadows under the wings. Inside G, Wing Commander Gibson completes his checks. His movements are short, precise, automatic. Beside him, co-pilot Flight Lieutenant Harrop is silent. Engineer? Gibson's voice is a flat, metallic crackle over the intercom. All temps and pressures in the green, Skipper. Flight Engineer John Spafford's voice is calm. But she's heavy, sir. Very heavy. I've never felt her sit this low on the oleos. She's not just heavy. She's dangerously, fundamentally overloaded. The standard maximum takeoff weight for a Lancaster is 63,000 pounds. Tonight, G for George, bloated with 2,100 gallons of fuel and carrying the 9,150-pound upkeep mine, weighs just over 75,000 pounds. A green Aldis lamp flashes from the mobile control caravan. It's time, Gibson nods once. Right, here we go. His left hand shoves the 4 throttle levers forward to the gate. The four Merlins respond, their idle thrum escalating to a deafening, earth-shaking roar. The airframe groans, straining against the brakes. "Brakes off!" Gibson calls. The bomber lurches, then begins to roll. It feels sluggish, like a drowned animal trying to climb a muddy bank. Gibson keeps his eyes fixed on the distant, flickering lights at the end of the runway. "Airspeed. 60 knots, Harrop calls out, his voice tight. "She's wallowing, Skipper." 70 knots. The runway lights are rushing at them. They are halfway down the strip and the bomber feels nailed to the concrete. 8 knots. 90. They are using all the runway. The red boundary lights at the far end are no longer distant. They are a rapidly approaching line of death. 100 knots. "She's not lifting. Give it time." Gibson barks, his hands steady, resisting the urge to pull back. Pull back too soon and she'll stall, cartwheeling into a 75,000-pound fireball. 10. VR. "Now, Skipper." Gibson eases the yoke back, gently. The nose wheel lifts, but the main wheels remain glued to the earth. "The end of the runway is right there. Lift, you bitch. Lift," Harrop mutters. With a final shuddering groan, the wheels unstick. The Lancaster is airborne, but only just. It staggers into the air, clearing the boundary fence by no more than 10 feet. The black mass of the trees at the end of the field rushes underneath them, close enough to touch. "Gear up," Gibson snaps. The aircraft sinks for a heart-stopping second as the drag from the wheels takes effect. Then, finally, the Merlins bite, and she begins to climb, slowly, painfully. One by one, the others follow. Mick Martin and M for Mother, Hoppy, Hopgood, and P for Popsy. Each one a desperate, overloaded battle against gravity. Then a sudden snag. Flight Lieutenant Joe McCarthy, leader of the second wave, radios from his aircraft. Q for Queenie. "Skipper, my starboard inner hydraulics gone. I'm US. I can't take off." "Damn it." Gibson curses. The carefully timed second wave attack on the Sorpy is already falling apart. "Joe, get to the reserve aircraft." Gibson orders. T for Tom. "Get her airborne. Now you'll have to catch us up." Gibson banks G for George, circling the airfield. Below him, he sees the dark shapes of his formation, the moonlight glinting on their perspex canopies. They form up into 3 loose Vics. The first wave. They turn east, toward the coast, toward Holland, toward the flak, May 16, 1943, 23:09 hours, over the North Sea, approaching the Dutch island of Vlieland. For an hour they have flown in radio silence, a tight formation of black shadows against the moonlit sea. Inside G for George, the only sounds are the steady, hypnotic roar of the Merlins and the quiet, tense callouts of the navigator, Flight Sergeant Taram. "Coastline dead ahead, Skipper." 5 minutes and right, Gibson's voice is flat. "Gunners, check your fronts. This is where they'll be waiting." They are flying at exactly 100 feet, too high for the sea, but the only way to ensure the formation stays together. As the thin black line of the occupied coast appears, the sea seems to hold its breath. There it is. The bomb aimer, Flight Sergeant Pulford, calls from the nose. "Vlieland." The words are barely out of his mouth. "Flak! Starboard bow, flak!" The front gunner screams. The night explodes. From a battery on the island, the sky is suddenly terrifyingly filled with light. Strings of green and red tracers, flaming onions the crews call them, float up towards the formation. They look deceptively slow, beautiful, until they whip past the cockpit with a vicious cracking "Shht! Break! Break! Get down on the deck!" Gibson roars, shoving the yoke hard forward. G for George dives, dropping from 100 feet to barely 30, the props churning the black water into foam. All around him, the other Lancasters do the same, scattering like panicked birds. But it's too late for one of them. Gibson, glancing to his port, sees Flight Lieutenant Melvin Dingy Young's aircraft, A for Apple, fly directly through a curtain of 20mm shells. He sees the impacts, a series of bright, sharp flashes like a welder's arc stitching a line across the bomber's wing and fuselage. Thud, 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 thud. Apple's hit. Apple's hit! Gibson's co-pilot yells, on board A for Apple, chaos. The radio is a smashed ruin. The navigator's compass has shattered. The rear gunner is screaming over the intercom, his voice high and thin before his line goes dead. Gibson watches, his heart in his throat expecting the wing to fold, for the black shape to blossom into an orange fireball and plunge into the sea. But Dingy Young is one of the best. The aircraft shudders, wounded, trailing glycol smoke. but it keeps flying. It levels off a wounded giant and presses on, disappearing into the darkness over the Dutch mainland. Gibson's mind races. The formation is a liability. They are a magnet for flak. First wave, this is leader. Scatter, scatter! Fly your own tracks to the rendezvous point. See you at the Mona, out. The radio goes silent. The formation is gone. Gibson is alone. He and the 132 men in the other aircraft are now individuals, each crew fighting its own private war, racing at treetop level across miles of blacked-out hostile territory. The first gauntlet is run. May 17, 1943. Air 15 hours. Above the German countryside approaching the Ruhr, this is the loneliest, most terrifying part of the flight. The aircraft is a black ghost, its own shadow rippling over the tops of pine trees just 100 feet below. The roar of the four Merlins, throttled back for fuel economy, seems to shake the very earth. Inside G for George, the atmosphere is one of sterile, hyper-focused concentration. Every man is at his station, his world shrunk to his own small patch of green-lit instruments or moon-washed perspex. The navigator, Flight Sergeant Taram, is no longer navigating by stars. He's on his knees, head pressed to the astrodome, map reading the moonlit earth as it flashes by at 4 miles a minute. River bend to port. Now, Skipper. Taram's voice is a strained, urgent monotone. Should be a railway line crossing in 5 seconds. 4, 3. Mark, we're on track. Next turning point, Ham Rail Yard. I see it, Gibson says. Ahead, a vast, dark spiderweb of sidings glints in the moonlight. Going around it? Too much flak. He banks the Lancaster hard, the wingtip seeming to brush the rooftops of a sleeping village. A dog barks, a sound they can't hear but can almost feel. Suddenly, the front gunner, Flight Sergeant Deering, screams. Pylons, dead ahead! Pylons. Pulford, in the nose, sees them at the same second. A looming lattice of steel, and the faint moonlit silver of high-voltage cables strung directly across their path. There is no time to climb. Gibson's reaction is not of a pilot, but of a motorist dodging a cyclist. He shoves the yoke forward. The 30-ton bomber dives. The entire crew lurches against their harnesses. They drop under the power lines. The engineer, Spafford, looking out the side blister, sees the massive steel legs of the pylon flash past above his wing. He feels the static crackle in his headset. Christ, Gibson mutters, pulling the aircraft back to 100 feet. Good eyes, front gunner. Good eyes. The air is no longer clean. It smells of industrial smoke, of coal and chemicals wafting up from the dark valley. This is the Ruhr. The sky is no longer empty. In the distance, flashes and the lazy, probing fingers of searchlights hunt for the main bomber stream, which is, by decoy, hundreds of miles to the north. They are alone, deep in the enemy's lair. A burst of static in Gibson's headset. A voice faint and distorted. Leader, this is M for Mother. On your port quarter, 5 miles back. See you at the lake. It's Mick Martin. He made it. Then another voice. Flight Lieutenant Maltby. J for Johnny here, starboard closing. They are reconverging. The lonely, terrifying race is almost over. Taram's voice is tight, his pencil tapping the map. Skipper. That ridge, ahead, it's the last one. The Mona Reservoir is on the other side. Gibson's hand tightens on the yoke. He can almost smell the water. Right, he says, and his voice is suddenly terrifyingly calm. This is it, action stations. Bomb aimer, get your eye on that site. Engineer, stand by to spin the mine. Gunners, watch for the towers. We're going in. May 17th, 1943. Narrow 27 hours. The Mona Reservoir. Gibson crests the final ridge and the world opens up. Below them, a vast serpentine lake of black glass stretches out, silvered by the full moon. It's beautiful. And at the far end, curving between 2 hills, is the target, the Mona Dam. It's bigger than any photograph. A colossal, elegant wall of stone and concrete, 112 feet high, holding back 134 million tons of water. It looks ancient, immovable, arrogant, and it is awake. Flak, Skipper. Flak on the dam. 10 o'clock. 2 o'clock. As if summoned by the gunner's voice, the dam's defenses erupt. From towers on the dam itself and from batteries on the hills, a blizzard of 20mm cannon fire streaks out. Red, green, and white tracers pour into the sky, crisscrossing the air above the reservoir in a dense, lethal web. My God. Harrop whispers. It's a hornet's nest. Right, Gibson says, his voice devoid of all emotion. He is no longer a man. He is a component in a weapon system. We're going in. Engineer, spin the mine. Mine spinning, sir, Spafford calls. The bone-jarring vibration slams into them. The THHHRRR of the 500 RPM mine joins the roar of the engines. The aircraft shudders, fighting the gyroscopic force. Bomb aimer lights. Pulford flips the switch. Two brilliant white beams shoot down from the fuselage, stabbing the black water. Too high, Skipper. Too high, bring her down. Pulford's voice is a scream over the din. Gibson shoves the yoke forward. The Lancaster dives toward the water, straight into the wall of flak. The tracers are no longer distant lines. They are fiery incandescent balls the size of fists whipping past the canopy. 70 feet. Circles are touching. Mark, figure 8. 60 feet. Hold her, hold her. Speed? Gibson snaps, his eyes fixed on the dam wall rushing toward them. 240. 240. Holding, sir. They are a perfect impossible target. Flying straight and level at 60 feet, lights on, in a vibrating, roaring bomber aimed at the heart of the inferno. The noise is indescribable. The howl of the Merlins, the scream of the spinning mine, and the constant deafening crack, crack, crack of 20mm shells exploding nearby. Got the towers. Pulford yells, his eye jammed into the wooden Y sight. They're in the sight, widening. Coming up. Coming up. The flak is... A shell explodes directly in front of the nose, showering the perspex with shrapnel. A spiderweb of cracks appears in front of Gibson's face. Hold her, Skipper. Almost, steady, now! Gibson's thumb slams the release. Bomb gone. The Lancaster, 9,000 pounds lighter, leaps 30 feet into the air. Gibson fights it, ramming the yoke forward, banking hard to starboard, and roaring directly over the dam wall. The rear gunner, Flight Sergeant Trevor Roper, stares down and sees the flak gunners on the tower below him, their faces turned up in disbelief. Gibson circles back, his heart pounding. He looks at the dam. The mine had bounced perfectly. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. It had struck the wall. A colossal column of water 1,000 feet high erupts in the moonlight. It towers over the dam, dwarfing it, and then collapses. The crews in the circling aircraft cheer. You've done it, Skipper. You've breached it. Gibson waits. The water settles. The moonlight glints again. On a solid, unbroken, and utterly undamaged wall, the mine, his bomb aimer's perfect drop, had failed. The charge had detonated, but the wall had held. Damn you, Gibson whispers. He grabs his radio. M for Mother. This is Leader. I'm going in again. I'm going to fly with you on your starboard side. I'll draw their fire. Go for the same spot. We have to hit the same spot. Mick Martin's voice, calm and steady, comes back. Understood, Skipper, going in. See you on the other side. May 17th, 1943. 0031 hours. The Muna Reservoir. Flight Lieutenant Mick Martin, piloting M for Mother, banks his Lancaster in a wide, dark circle, lining up for the attack. His stomach is a cold knot. He just watched the skipper's perfect run fail. Right. Martin's voice is tight over the intercom. Going in. Engineer, spin the mine. Mine spinning, sir. The violent THHRRR begins. As Martin straightens his run, heading for the wall of flak, a shape slides in off his starboard bow. It's G for George. Gibson's voice crackles in his headset, shockingly close. I'm with you, Mick, on your right. Get in there. Martin's crew stares in disbelief. Gibson isn't just watching. He's flying with them. He's positioned his bomber between M for Mother and the deadliest flak towers on the right side of the dam. What's he? He's drawing their fire. Martin's co-pilot exclaims. The German gunners, confused by this new suicidal tactic, split their fire. Half the tracers that should have been aimed at Martin now swerve toward Gibson. Inside G for George, it's hell. The aircraft is a target, illuminated by its own spotlights from the previous run. Tracers are not just whipping past, they are hitting. Thud, crack, thud. A 20mm shell explodes in the port wing, ripping a hole the size of a dinner plate. The rear gunner, Trevor Roper, is screaming, Skipper, they're all over us. Port side, port side. Hold steady, Martin.
Keep coming!
Gibson roars, his own aircraft shuddering as it takes more hits. Inside M for Mother, the bomb aimer, Flight Sergeant Bob Hay, is oblivious. His world is the wooden Y sight. Lights on, Martin orders. Figure 8 locked. Height calls, 60 feet. Speed 240. Perfect. The flak is still a blizzard, but it's thinner than it was for Gibson. Got the towers widening to steady, steady. Now the mine drops. Martin hauls M for Mother into a climbing bank, clearing the wall. Gibson, his duty done, breaks off, his port inner engine trailing a plume of black smoke. They both circle. Again the magnificent, terrible waterspout. Again the agonizing 10-second wait for the water to settle, and again failure. The dam is still there. It's weeping now, bleeding water from a dozen new cracks, but the Great Wall is unbroken. Gibson's heart plummets. 2 mines. 2 perfect drops. Wallis's calculations.
Were they wrong?
He grabs the radio. His voice is raw. P for Popsy. Hoppy. Flight Lieutenant Hopgood. You're next. Go in. You must hit the same spot. Right in the center. We're wounding it, Hoppy. We just need to hit it again. I'm coming in with you. May 17th, 1943. 0:35 hours. The Muna Reservoir. Flight Lieutenant Hoppy, Hopgood, P for Popsy, grips his yoke. His mouth is sandpaper. He has just seen 2 of the best pilots in the squadron execute the impossible maneuver perfectly and fail. Now it's his turn. Right, lads, his voice is a strained croak over the intercom. We're going in. Spin the mine. Mine spinning, sir. P for Popsy shudders as the mine spools up. Hopgood begins his long, straight run, aiming his aircraft like a bullet at the blazing dam wall. Gibson's voice cuts in. I'm with you, Hoppy, port side this time. Good luck. Hopgood sees G for George slide into place, a dark shield to his left. The German gunners, now fully alert and furious, open up with everything they have. The volume of flak is triple what it was on the first run. The air is a solid, lethal wall of tracers. Lights on. Hopgood orders. Circles are... God, the flak. Circles are touching. 60 feet. His bomb aimer, Flight Sergeant Fraser, yells. They are 800 yards out. 700. The noise is a physical battery, a continuous, deafening crack-crack thud as shells burst around them. P for Popsy is hit. A 20mm shell punches through the port inner engine. It explodes, severing a fuel line. In an instant, the entire port wing is a sheet of roaring flame. The fire is so bright it illuminates the cockpit. The crew's faces a mask of red light and black shadow. Skipper. We're on fire! We're on fire! The engineer screams. Hold her! Hopgood roars, fighting the yoke with all his strength. The aircraft is trying to roll over, dragged down by the burning wing. In G for George, Gibson watches in horror. Popsy's hit. He's on fire! Pull up, Hoppy, pull up! But Hopgood is still flying straight. He is a dead man, but he is still on the attack run. Inside Popsy, Fraser, the bomb aimer, is still at his sight. The flames are licking at his blister. Got the towers. Still got them. 500 yards, 450. Now. He slams the release. It's too late. The burning wing, the lost power, the desperate fight. The aircraft is too low. It's at 30 feet, not 60. P for Popsy, its mine just dropped, fails to clear the dam. The burning port wing clips the crest of the dam wall. The result is instantaneous and apocalyptic. The 30-ton Lancaster, still at full speed, cartwheels into the hydroelectric power station at the base of the dam. The aircraft, its 1,000 gallons of remaining fuel, and its full load of ammunition disintegrate in a single, massive, white-hot fireball that momentarily blinds every other pilot in the sky. The shockwave buffets Gibson's Lancaster, throwing it 50 feet into the air. He fights for control, his cockpit suddenly smelling of oil and cordite from Hopgood's explosion. The newly released mine, caught in the blast, detonates. The combined explosion is colossal, but it is not at the base of the dam. It is on the crest. When the smoke clears, Gibson circles. His heart is a block of ice. Hopgood and his entire crew are gone. And the dam. The dam is still there, 3 mines. 2 failures. 1 crew vaporized. The dam stands. He looks at his fuel gauge. He looks at the remaining aircraft. Flight Lieutenant Dingy Young in A for Apple, the aircraft that was shot up over the coast. Flight Lieutenant Maltby in J for Johnny. Gibson grabs his transmitter. His voice is a ghost. A for Apple. Dingy, it's your turn. A calm, steady voice comes back immediately. Understood, Skipper. Going in. May 17th, 1943. 0.39 hours. The Muna Reservoir. The air over the lake stinks. It's a foul mix of atomized water, cordite, and the oily kerosene stench of Hopgood's burning Lancaster, which is now a funeral pyre at the base of the dam. The German gunners, emboldened by their kill, have redoubled their fire, creating a solid wall of tracers. In the cockpit of A for Apple, Flight Lieutenant Dingy Young banks his aircraft. This is the bomber that was shot up over the coast. Its radio is dead. Its navigator's compartment is a mess of shattered perspex, but its engines are sound and its pilot is ice cold. Young can't hear Gibson's order. He doesn't need to. He saw Hopgood go in. He saw him die. He knows he is next. He aligns his aircraft for the run. His co-pilot, Sergeant WWII Hatfield, gives him a grim nod. Gibson, circling above, sees Young's aircraft drop to the water. He can't raise him on the radio. He's going in, Gibson breathes. He's going in alone. J for Johnny, stand by. Be ready. Young's Lancaster. A for Apple. Thunders toward the dam. Engineer. Spin the mine. Spinning, sir. The THHHRRR of the mine adds to the howl of the engines. Young's hands are rock steady. He's flying into a wall of fire. Lights on. Circles. Touching. Mark, 60 feet. The bomb aimer, Sergeant L.C. Nichols, calls, his voice astonishingly calm. Speed 240. Good run, skipper. Good run. The damaged aircraft is hit again. Thud, crack, thud. A volley of 20mm shells rips through the tail. The rear gunner grunts in pain, but stays on his triggers, firing back at the towers. Hold her. Hold her, Nichols intones, his eye glued to the wooden sight. The two dam towers are widening, framed against the smoke and fire. Steady, steady now. Young's thumb hits the button. Bomb gone. He hauls the heavy bomber up. The controls sluggish from the flak damage. The aircraft staggers over the dam wall, clearing it by what seems like inches. Gibson, Martin, and Maltby all watch. 4 mines. Again the colossal, silent column of white water. Again the agonizing weight. The water settles. The dam is still there. It is grievously wounded. Water is pouring from a dozen massive cracks. But the main wall has not failed. Gibson feels a black, bottomless despair. He has thrown 4 of his best crews at the target. He has lost 1, possibly 2. For Apple is now limping away, its rear turret silent. And the dam still stands. He has 1 aircraft left in his wave. J for Johnny. His voice is almost unrecognizable, a hoarse croak. Johnny, Flight Lieutenant Maltby. You're our last. You must breach it. Go in, I can't come with you. My port engine is failing. Go in, Johnny. Godspeed. May 17th, 1943, or 42 hours. The Mona Reservoir. In the cockpit of J for Johnny, Flight Lieutenant David Maltby throttles up. He looks at the dam. It's a smoking, pockmarked, weeping ruin, yet it stands. The flak is still thick, but it seems sparser. The German gunners are low on ammunition or perhaps stunned by the sheer suicidal persistence of the attackers. Maltby has seen it all. Gibson's failed run. Martin's failed run. Hopgood's horrific death. Young's brave, futile attempt. He is the last. There are no more mines at the Mona. Right, chaps, his voice is unnaturally level. One last go. Let's make this one count. Engineer, spin the mine. Mine spinning, sir. The now familiar, terrifying THHHRRR fills the aircraft. Lights on. Maltby dives J for Johnny onto the lake, the beams stabbing the water. His bomb aimer, Flight Sergeant J.W. Johnson, calls it out. Down, skipper. Down. 65 feet. Steady. Mark, 60 feet. Perfect. Speed 240. Hold her. Hold her. Maltby flies the perfect illuminated line. The remaining flak snaps at them, but it's less accurate now. They're flying straight into the smoke from Hopgood's pyre, the acrid smell filling the cockpit. Got the towers. Johnson yells, his eye jammed to the wooden sight. Right. Right in the center. The breach. I'm aiming for the damage. He sees it. The dark weeping gash in the center of the wall where the previous 4 mines have hammered, weakened, and fractured the stone. Steady. Widening. 500 yards. 450. The aircraft is rock solid. Maltby is flying like a machine, almost. Now! Bomb gone! Maltby shouts, hauling the Lancaster into the tightest possible climbing turn. He doesn't just skim the dam. He wrenches the aircraft 90 degrees to starboard, skidding it on its wingtip to get clear. From the Astrodome of G for George, Guy Gibson, his own aircraft crippled, watches the 5th mine. It hits the water. Ziz thwack, it bounces once. Ziz thwack, it bounces twice. On the 3rd bounce, it vanishes, sinking exactly where Johnson aimed it, at the base of the massive, dark stain that marks the accumulated damage. For 3 seconds, nothing. Then, the water at the base of the dam seems to swell. It doesn't explode upwards in a spout, it bulges. A deep internal muffled whump is felt more than heard. The entire 800-foot-long stone wall shivers. A crack, a black spiderweb appears near the center. It zips upward. Gibson stares, his breath caught in his throat. Slowly, as if in a dream, a single 100-foot-wide section of the Great Dam Wall, a chunk of stone and concrete weighing thousands of tons, begins to move. It leans, it tilts, and then, with a sound that no man there will ever forget, a sound like the end of the world, a deep primal groan of tearing rock, it topples. It doesn't explode. It unleashes. 134 million tons of water held back for a decade is suddenly free. It is not a flood. It is a solid 30-foot-high wall of white boiling water, a liquid avalanche that bursts through the 300-foot-wide gap. It hits the power station where Hopgood's aircraft is burning and vaporizes it. It smashes into the narrow valley below, carrying with it the sound of 1 million tons of gravel. In his cockpit, Gibson is speechless. He keys his transmitter. His voice is a cracked whisper. It's gone. It's breached.
My God.
He looks at the cataclysm unfolding below, a white raging tide glinting in the moonlight, erasing the valley, the trees, the villages in a matter of seconds. He forces his voice back to the clipped tone of command. Leader to all aircraft. Target breached. I say again, target breached. Primary objective achieved. Form up! Form up on me! We're going home. May 17, 1943, 0:59 hours. En route to the Eder Dam. The euphoria of the breach is gone, replaced by the cold, hard reality of the next task. Gibson's Lancaster, G for George, is badly wounded. The port inner engine is running rough, trailing smoke, and the airframe shudders constantly from the flak damage. Navigator, course for Eder. Gibson's voice is ragged. He has just lost Hopgood. He has sent Dingy Young's A for Apple limping for home. He is left with 3 aircraft. His own, Maltby's J for Johnny, and Martin's M for Mother. But only Maltby and Martin still have their minds. Gibson is now a spotter, a leader, and a decoy. Heading 16 Neo skipper. Taram calls out. It's a difficult one, sir. Deep in the hills. Not many landmarks. This is an understatement. The Eder Dam is not in an industrial valley. It's hidden in the deep, forested, almost medieval landscape of Waldeck. There are no factories to guide them, no railway lines, just a winding, confusing lake, the Edersee, which twists like a snake through steep, pine-covered hills. And as they fly south, a new enemy appears. Ground fog. Wisps of white mist cling to the dark river valleys below, thickening as they approach the reservoir. I can't see the water, Pulford, the bomb aimer says, his voice tight with anxiety. Skipper, the fog. It's covering the lake. We can't use the spotlights. Gibson's heart sinks. The entire attack is predicated on the spotlights. Without them, 60 feet is an impossible suicidal guess. He descends. 200 feet. 150. 100. The fog is a solid white blanket. Damn it. Damn it all. Gibson curses. He circles. Martin and Maltby follow, 2 dark shadows in the moonlight, their pilot staring at the same white void. This is impossible. Martin's voice crackles over the radio. Skipper, we can't even find the wall, let alone attack it. Gibson is faced with a terrible choice. Abort the second target, go home with the moon breached, or find a way. He looks at the moon. It's high bright. The hills, Gibson says. The fog is in the valley, not on the peaks. Pulford, Taram, navigate by the hilltops. Find the dam by the shape of the valley. We'll have to guess the altitude. He's asking them to fly at 240 mepriars at night, in a narrow, twisting gorge blinded by fog, and guess their height over the water they cannot see. I think I have it, sir, Taram says, his head pressed to the perspex. That peak? And that one. The dam wall must be between them. Dead ahead. 2 miles, Gibson nods. Right, I'm going in. I'll do a dummy run, see if I can spot it. Johnny, Mother, orbit and watch. If I find it, I'll signal. He banks G for George and dives. He plunges the crippled Lancaster into the top layer of the mist, his eyes straining, searching for the telltale shape of the dam wall. All he sees is white. May 17, 1943, 01:10 hours. The Edersee, Germany. Gibson shoves the yoke forward. G for George, its port engine still trailing a light haze of smoke, sinks into the clammy white void. The moonlight vanishes. The world is gone, replaced by an oppressive, swirling whiteness. The roar of the engine seems muffled, deadened by the fog. It is like flying inside a cloud of cotton wool. Navigator, are you sure? Gibson's voice is sharp, betraying the immense strain. I'm completely blind. The valley walls are... Taram's voice hesitates. They should be half a mile to port and starboard, sir. The dam, dead ahead, 1 mile. The Lancaster flashes past a black shape that looms out of the mist for a fraction of a second, the top of a pine tree. Pull up. Pull up, skipper! The co-pilot, Harrop, screams, his eyes wide. Gibson reacts on instinct. He hauls the yoke back, his muscles screaming. The wounded Lancaster shudders, protesting the sudden violent maneuver. The port engine coughs, then catches as they claw for altitude. They burst out of the fog, back into the clear, cold moonlight, the belly of the bomber scraping the uppermost branches of the forest. Gibson is panting, his forehead slick with sweat. That was it, a fraction of a second. We can't attack from in the fog, he says, his voice ragged. It's impossible. He circles higher this time, looking down at the white, shrouded valley. And then he sees it. The fog is not total. It's a ground layer, perhaps 80 feet deep, sticking out of the top, like 2 small square stones in a bed of wool, are the 2 towers on the crest of the Idar Dam. And unlike the Muna, they are silent, dark. There is no flak, not a single searchlight. The Germans had deemed the dam's remote, twisting, fog-shrouded location to be a better defense than any gun. They were almost right. Gibson studies the approach. The lake twists violently. To get a straight run, a pilot would have to fly at the high promontory hill, bank sharply around the medieval Waldeck castle perched on its summit, dive into the gorge, and then find the wall, all in about 15 seconds. Right, Gibson says, his mind made up. The science is gone. This is pure, raw, instinctive flying. Leader to Johnny and Mother. Do you see the towers? Maltby's voice. I see them, skipper, That's a suicidal approach. It's all we have, Gibson snaps. Forget the spotlights. They're useless. You will have to estimate your altitude. Use the dam towers as your reference. The wall is 112 feet high. You need to be 60 feet above the water. You'll have to judge it by eye, in the dark. While in a diving turn, a silence hangs in the air. What he is asking is, by any measure, impossible. Johnny, Gibson continues, you're first. Spin your mine. Make your run. I can't draw any fire for you. There isn't any. You're on your own. Godspeed. In J for Johnny, David Maltby takes a deep breath. He looks at the moonlit castle on the hill. He has to fly at that, then hook left, dive blind into a patch of fog and find a wall, all while guessing an altitude of 60 feet. Right, chaps, he says to his crew. This is going to be tricky. Engineer, spin the mine. May 17th, 1943. 01:21 hours. The Ettersea. David Maltby brings J for Johnny around again. His shirt is soaked with sweat. He's furious with himself, too high. He will not be too high this time. Right, he says, his voice a low growl. Headed back to the castle. This time I'm putting her on the treetops. Engineer, keep that speed right at 240, don't let it drift. Again the dark shape of the castle. Again the hard, sickening bank to the left. But this time Maltby doesn't just dive. He plummets. He shoves the nose down, aiming for the base of the fog, not the top. The Lancaster screams into the gorge, its Merlins at full power. The white fog envelops them instantly. In the nose, Flight Sergeant Johnson is blind, his eye jammed to the sight, seeing nothing but illuminated white mist. I can't see anything. Skipper, where is it? Suddenly, a vast black shape looms out of the fog. It's not ahead of them. It's above them. It's the crest of the dam wall. Too low. Too low. Pull up. Pull up, Johnson screams, raw panic in his voice. Maltby's reaction is instantaneous. He hauls back on the yoke with all his strength. The 30-ton bomber, its mind still spinning, groans in protest. It lurches upwards, its belly scraping the stone parapet of the dam wall. The crew hears a horrifying, metallic screech. The spinning mine, still attached, hits the stone crest. The aircraft is kicked sideways like a car hit by a truck. The port wing dips, almost touching the water on the far side. Maltby fights the controls, his muscles burning as the aircraft staggers, wounded, back into the air. The mine is still attached. It's been badly damaged, its casing dented, but it didn't release. Maltby, panting, climbs back into the clear moonlight. He has failed. Twice his aircraft is damaged. His mine is damaged. Gibson's voice cuts in, cold and final. Johnny, that's it. Your mine is compromised, and you're too low on fuel for another pass. Get out, head for home. Well tried, David. Well tried. Maltby's J for Johnny. The aircraft that had breached the Muna turns for home. Its mission incomplete. Gibson, in his crippled G for George, circles. It is now Oro 125. He is left with one aircraft, one mine. Flight Lieutenant Mick Martin and M for Mother. Mother. Gibson's voice is weary, almost defeated. It's you. You're the last. You saw Johnny. Too high is no good. Too low is that you have one chance. Find the gap. Mick Martin's calm, steady voice comes back. Understood, Skipper, going in. Spinning the mine. May 17th, 1943. Oro 1, 28 hours. The Ettersea. Flight Lieutenant Mick Martin, M for Mother. Watches J for Johnny vanish into the darkness. A wounded bird heading for home. Gibson, in his crippled G for George, is orbiting somewhere above, a spectator. It's all down to him. One mine. One chance. Martin looks at the dark castle on the hill. He looks at the white, fog-shrouded gorge. He has just seen Maltby's 2 attempts. One too high, one nearly catastrophic. Right, lads. Martin's voice is preternaturally calm. We've had a perfect demonstration of what not to do. There's a gap between 30 feet and 150 feet, and we're going to find it. Engineer, spin the mine. Mine spinning, sir. The THHHRRR kicks in, the aircraft vibrating with lethal energy. Bomb aimer, Martin says to Bob Hay. The spotlights are useless. Forget them. You have one job. Get those towers in your sight. I'll handle the altitude. I'm going to aim for a point just below the tops of those towers. It's all just guesswork from there. Understood, Skipper. Hay's voice is a tight whisper. Martin shoves the throttle forward. M for Mother gathers speed, aiming for the castle. Navigator. Call the turn! Castle approaching. Now, Skipper. Hard left, dive! Martin throws the Lancaster into the now familiar gut-wrenching bank. He doesn't just dive. He skids the aircraft, slipping it sideways to lose altitude rapidly, plunging into the white, disorienting fog. The tops of the pine trees, black shapes in the mist, flash by just feet below his port wing. Speed 240. Holding. I'm blind, Skipper. Just fog. Hay murmurs. Then out of the whiteness, the 2 stone towers of the dam. They are not below them as they were for Maltby's first run. They are almost level with them. I see them, Hay shouts. But, Skipper, we're still high. 90 feet, maybe 100. Martin has no time to dive. He's on top of it. He shoves the yoke forward, a brutal, stomach-lurching maneuver. The Lancaster drops like a stone. Got them. Hay screams as the aircraft falls. The 2 towers are perfectly framed in his wooden Y-sight. Steady on now. Martin's thumb hits the release. Bomb gone. He doesn't wait. He hauls back on the yoke with everything he has. M for Mother leaps into the air, its belly clearing the stone parapet by no more than 5 feet. Gibson, in G for George, watches. He sees the black mine drop. It hits the water, perfectly. Zzz, thwack. It bounces once, short, twice. It strikes the wall dead center, and sinks. For 5 agonizing seconds, the Eder Dam, silent and dark, remains. Then a flicker, a deep internal flash of light visible through the stone, as if the dam itself has been illuminated from within. A muffled, crushing whump follows. The entire 900-foot-long wall shivers. A massive central section, 200 feet wide, seems to dissolve. It doesn't topple. It disintegrates. Another 200 million tons of water erupts, a boiling, white, raging force. A wave, 40 feet high, smashes into the narrow valley. The moonlit fog in the gorge is instantly erased, replaced by a churning, angry sea that carries with it the sound of snapping trees and grinding rock. In G for George, Gibson can only stare. He has just watched the second impossible dam die. He keys his transmitter. His voice for the first time is filled with a raw, unbelievable triumph. M for Mother. You've done it. You've done it, Mick. Eder is breached. I say again, Eder is breached. Primary and secondary objectives and achieved. He takes a deep, shuddering breath. He looks at his fuel gauges. They're critical. His port engine is dying. Leader to all 6117 Squadron aircraft. Our work is done. All aircraft, set course for home, and God help us on the way. May 17th, 1943, 01:35 hours. Over the German hills heading northwest. The elation is gone. Gibson's triumph evaporates, replaced by the cold, iron-hard mathematics of survival. He is over 300 miles from the English coast, flying a crippled bomber on 3 engines, and he has just woken up the entire German night fighter defense network. "Skipper," the engineer, Spafford says, his voice flat and tired. "Number 2 engine. Oil pressure is 0. The temperature is in the red. She's seizing. I'm going to have to feather it." "Do it," Gibson replies. There's a lurch as the port inner propeller stops, its blades turning edge-on to the wind to reduce drag. The Lancaster yaws hard to the left. Gibson shoves his right foot onto the rudder pedal, a constant aching pressure to keep the aircraft flying straight. Their speed drops. 220, 10, 200 MEP. They are slow. They are vulnerable. The radio, silent for so long, crackles to life. It is not a 617 squadron voice. It is a German voice, sharp, clear, and calm. A Nachtjagdfighter-Controller. Achtung, Nachtjäger. Achtung. Feindliche Bomber im Sektor Paderborn. Kurs Nordwest. Primärziele Möhne und Eder bestätigt. Abfangen, abfangen! Attention, night fighters. Enemy bombers in Sector Paderborn. Course northwest. Primary targets Möhne and Eder confirmed. Intercept. Intercept? Gibson's blood runs cold, they know. They know where he is and they know where he is going. The gauntlet is set. "Right," Gibson says, his voice a low growl. "Get us down. I want the treetops. Lower than we've ever been. Put your wheels in the bloody pines if you have to." It's our only chance. He pushes the nose down, taking the wounded bomber to 100 feet, 80, 50, until their own prop wash is tearing leaves from the trees. Miles behind them, Flight Lieutenant Dingy Young in the flak-damaged A for Apple is not so lucky. His radio is smashed. He can't hear Gibson's warning. He is flying at 200 feet, his rear gunner silent, his navigator wounded, trying to nurse his aircraft home. He never sees the hunter. A black shape, a Messerschmitt Bf 110 night fighter, slides in below him. The German pilot, guided by his radar, looks up through his canopy, aligns the shadow of the Lancaster, and presses his triggers. A stream of 20mm cannon shells, angled upwards in the Schräge Musik, slanting music attack, rips through the belly of A for Apple. The shells find the main fuel tank. There is no fire, no chase. Just a single, silent, brilliant flash that illuminates the clouds for a mile in every direction. A for Apple, and its entire crew disintegrate. Gibson, miles ahead, sees the flash in his rearview mirror. A brief, sickening, orange-white flicker on the southern horizon. "God," Harrop whispers. "Who was that?" "Don't ask," Gibson says, his face a mask of stone. "Just watch the trees." At that same moment, 50 miles away, Flight Lieutenant Joe McCarthy in the reserve aircraft T for Tom finally arrives at his target, the Sorp Dam. He is hours late. He is all alone. He looks down at a completely different target, not a concrete wall, but a massive, sloping earth and rock dam. The orders are different, no backspin. Fly along the dam at 60 feet and drop the mine like a conventional bomb onto the crest. But the Sorp A2 is shrouded in dense, swirling fog. "I can't see the wall," his bomb aimer shouts. "I'm blind, Joe." "We've come this far," McCarthy roars. "We're not going back. We're going in." He dives T for Tom into the fog, once, twice, 6 times. On the 7th pass, a gap in the mist. There! "Get ahead!" "I'm too fast. I can't." McCarthy pulls up, circles, and dives a 10th time. The run is perfect. Steady, steady. Now, the mine drops. It hits the dam crest, dead center, and explodes in a massive plume of mud and rock. The crew cheers. But when the smoke clears, the Sorpe is still there. The earth dam, broad and sloping, has simply absorbed the blast. It is damaged, but not breached. Damn it! McCarthy curses. He looks at his fuel. It's critical. It's no good. We're going home. Set course for home, Nav. He turns T for Tom west, heading straight into the same sky where the night fighters are now waiting. May 17, 1943. 02:15 hours. Near Dorsten, Germany. Flight Sergeant W.C. Otley, piloting C for Charlie, is flying on borrowed time. His crew had heard Gibson's mission accomplished signal, but the Triumph feels a million miles away. Now it's just survival. He's at 100 feet, his eyes raw, his entire body aching from the strain of feeling the aircraft through the dark. The moonlight is a curse, painting their black Lancaster silhouette against the silvered fields for any hunter to see. His rear gunner, Sergeant JGGT's, hasn't blinked in 30 minutes. His world is the small black perspex-framed patch of sky behind them. Skipper. Tease's voice is a low, urgent hiss. Shadow, starboard quarter high. I think, yes, it's a 110. He's seen us. Diving. Brake left. Brake. Otley roars, throwing the 30-ton bomber into a violent skidding bank. He shoves the nose down, trying to get below the treetops. It's useless. The Messerschmitt Bf-110, a sleek, twin-engined Hunter, is infinitely faster. The German pilot doesn't even bother with a ranging burst. He simply slides in behind the wallowing Lancaster, aims for the huge slab-sided fuselage, and opens fire. A storm of 20mm and 30mm cannon shells slams into C for Charlie. The sound is not a thud. It's a series of deafening metallic explosions inside the aircraft. The starboard inner fuel tank ignites. We're hit. We're on fire, the engineer screams. The wing is gone. The cockpit fills with thick, acrid smoke. Otley is fighting a dead machine. The controls are gone, floppy and useless in his hands. The entire right wing is a solid sheet of flame. Bail out! Bail out! Bail out! Otley yells, his voice muffled by the roar of the fire. It's too late. They are at 80 feet. There is no time. There is no altitude. There is no escape. C for Charlie snaps into a violent roll, cartwheeling into a dark German field and vanishing in a blinding, silent flash of white-hot fuel. Miles away. In G for George, Gibson's co-pilot Harrop sees it. A brief, sudden, terrible light on the starboard horizon. Skipper, Harrop's voice is dead. Another one. Gibson doesn't respond. His face is a mask of stone. He cannot mourn. He cannot grieve. He can only fly. He shoves his right foot harder against the rudder pedal, compensating for his dead engine, forcing the wounded bomber west. Get home, get home. Get home. The air is a lethal lottery. Every town is a potential flak trap. Every patch of dark forest a potential night fighter's ambush. Then at 0244 the navigator, Taram, looks up from his map, his face pale in the green glow of his task light. Skipper. The coast. I see it. It's the sea. We're at the coast. A collective shuddering sigh goes through the cockpit. They are not safe. But they are out of Germany. Right, Gibson says, his voice a hoarse whisper. Don't relax. Get us on the water. Put our wheels in the bloody waves. We'll fly home at 0 feet. He pushes the nose down one last time, the Lancaster sinking until the altimeter is a joke, until the bomb aimer Pulford can see the white crests of the waves, blurred by their speed just 10 feet below the nose. The sea spray mists the windscreen. They are safe from fighters. They are safe from flak. They are now in a new battle, a 200-mile flight across the North Sea, on 3 engines in a crippled, fuel-starved aircraft, fighting to stay awake. May 17th, 1943. 03:11 hours, over the North Sea. The cockpit of G for George is a cold, dark, exhausted bubble. The only sound is the out-of-sync drone of the 3 remaining Merlins, a lopsided, limping rhythm that is driving the crew mad. Gibson's right leg is a single burning cramp from holding the rudder. Harrop, his co-pilot, is flying, his eyes fixed on the black, rushing water just feet below, a task requiring a terrifying, inhuman level of concentration. Fuel. Skipper, the engineer, Spafford, says, his voice a dry croak. It's low, very low. The gauges are flickering. We will, Gibson says. The words are automatic. He has no emotional energy left. Navigator, position. Should be approaching the Norfolk coast, sir. Taram murmurs. He's been navigating by dead reckoning for an hour. 10 minutes, maybe. The eastern sky is no longer black. It's a pale, sickly gray. Dawn is coming. With it, the first light reveals the true state of their aircraft. The port inner propeller is feathered and still. The perspex canopy is a spider's web of cracks from the flak at the Mona. The port wing itself is a ragged mess of torn aluminium, the holes dark and gaping. Skipper, Pulford says from the nose. His voice is different. It's not tense. It's relieved. Skipper, look, ahead. That's not a cloud. It's a line. A dark, solid line on the horizon. Land. England. Harrop breathes. The word is a prayer. Gibson closes his eyes for a single second. They are not home. They are just safe. Right, he says, pulling himself back to command. Navigator, get me a course for Scampton. Engineer, give me every last drop you have. We're going to need it. He takes the controls from Harrop. As G for George limps over the coastline at Cromer, the sun breaks the horizon. Gibson, Maltby, and Martin, separated in the dark, find each other in the dawn light. 3 wounded bombers trailing smoke and glycol climbing painfully away from the sea. A green flare arcs up from the airfield at Scampton. They are expected. Gibson lowers his undercarriage. A single red light glows on his panel. "Skipper," Harrop yells. "The port wheel. It's not indicating down. The flak, the damage. The port landing gear is stuck." Gibson's voice is dead calm. "Right, engineer hand pump. Co-pilot, emergency air pressure. Get that bloody wheel down. We are not crashing here." May 17th, 1943, 0412 hours. The control tower, RAF Scampton. The main briefing room is a cold, gray tomb. The air is thick with stale cigarette smoke, the floor littered with paper cups. Barnes Wallis stands by the blackout curtained window, his face a mask of gray, agonizing tension. He has been listening to the faint crackling signals. He heard the goner codes. He knows the dams are breached. He does not know who is alive. Air Vice Marshal Cochrane stands beside him, his face impassive, his eyes fixed on the eastern horizon. A WAF operator, her headset clamped on, suddenly stiffens. "Sir, I have engine noise. 3 aircraft. Bearing east." Wallis and Cochrane burst out onto the tower's cold balcony. The eastern sky is a pale, sickly gray, and against it 3 black shadows, lopsided, limping. The sound is all wrong. Not the healthy, unified roar of a formation, but the out-of-sync 3-engined whine of crippled birds. In the cockpit of G for George, Gibson is in a new kind of hell. They are circling the field. "It's no good, Skipper," Harrop yells, sweat dripping from his chin. "The emergency air pressure isn't... It's not shifting it. The port leg is still stuck. Again." Gibson roars, his voice raw. "Engineer, get on the hand pump now." Flight engineer John Spafford, his arms already jelly unclips, braces himself against the bulkhead and seizes the heavy wobble pump. He throws his entire exhausted body into it. Kerchunk, kerchunk, kerchunk. It's a desperate, physical fight against 300 miles of flak-damaged, leaking hydraulics. Gibson fighting the rudder. His leg a dead burning weight looks out the cracked side window. "I see it. It's moving. It's moving. Come on, you bitch. Come on." A sudden violent clunk shudders through the entire airframe, loud enough to be heard over the engines. A small green light on the panel flickers and glows steady. "Green." Harrop screams, his voice breaking. "Green light." Port wheel is down and locked. "We have 3 greens. Thank Christ," Gibson mutters. "Right, landing, this is it." He turns the battered bomber onto its final approach. He's flying on 3 engines with a fuselage full of holes, his controls feeling loose and sloppy. The runway rushes up. The touchdown is not a landing. It's a controlled crash. A heavy, jarring thud, a high-pitched squeal of rubber. Another thud as the tailwheel slams down. G for George is home. As it taxis toward its dispersal, the waiting ground crews, the ambulance teams, the senior officers, they can all see it clearly in the new dawn light. It's not a bomber. It's a skeleton. The fuselage is ripped open, the black fabric shredded, revealing the aluminum ribs beneath. The port wing is a sieve. The entire perspex nose is starred and broken. The 3 remaining engines die with a final wheezing cough. An unnatural, profound silence falls on the airfield, broken only by the tink-tink-tink of hot, cooling metal. The side hatch is thrown open. A figure, black with cordite and oil, doesn't climb down. He falls, caught by the arms of his ground crew chief. It's Guy Gibson. He is 24 years old, but in the gray light he looks 60. Cochrane and Wallis run up, their boots crunching on the gravel. Wallis is openly weeping, his face working, unable to form words. "You... the dams... Guy..." Wallis chokes out. "Did you..." Gibson leans against the massive tire, his legs shaking too much to stand. He looks past Wallis, his eyes black holes, searching the empty gray sky for the aircraft that are not there. "We breached them," Gibson whispers, his voice a dry rasp. "Both. Mona. Eater." Wallis lets out a sound, a half sob, half cry. Cochrane grabs Gibson's arm, his voice hard, practical. "How many, Guy? How many are with you?" Gibson just stares at the empty sky where Martin and Maltby are now circling, waiting to land their own wounded aircraft. Maltby. "Martin. They're here," he rasps. "McCarthy." He'll be later. I saw Hopgood go in. I saw Young, He shakes his head, the exhaustion and the grief suddenly too much. The rest, they're not coming back. Are they, sir? May 17, 1943. 7:30 hours. The main briefing room, RAF Scampton. The room is just as they left it, but the atmosphere has been poisoned. The stale cigarette smoke and nervous energy of the briefing are gone, replaced by the silence of a tomb. The morning sun, bright and unforgiving, streams through the windows, illuminating the rows of empty wooden benches. The survivors sit huddled near the front. Gibson, Martin, Maltby, Joe McCarthy, who landed T for Tom an hour after Gibson, his crew exhausted and black with mud from the Sorpe's blast, reports his failure with a bitter, frustrated anger. The other surviving crews, 7 in all, file in, their faces gray, their eyes haunted. They don't speak. They just sit, nursing mugs of lukewarm tea, their hands shaking. Barnes Wallis sits alone at the back, his briefcase on his lap. He is a civilian, an intruder in this place of uniformed grief. He watches the door, as if willing more men to walk through it, but no more come. The sky is empty. The raid is over. Air Vice Marshal Cochran stands on the platform, his face like stone. Beside him, Gibson, his jacket changed but his eyes still reflecting the flames, gives his formal report. His voice is a dead, mechanical monotone. Popsy was hit. Struck the power station. No survivors. Apple. I saw a flash on the route home. Southeast of Dorston. Nothing more. He goes down the list. The names of the pilots. The call signs. Oddly. C for Charlie. Did not return. Byers. K for King. Did not return. Barlow. E for Easy. Hit high-tension cables on the outbound flight. No survivors. The names hang in the air, each one a hammer blow. The men who just 12 hours before had been laughing, smoking, complaining about the food, are gone. Cochran steps forward. The numbers are simple. They are brutal. 19 aircraft departed. 11 have returned. 8 are lost, a gasp from Wallace. He does the math. 8 aircraft. 7 men per crew. 56 men. He looks at the survivors. Then he looks at the vast empty space on the benches behind them. Cochran continues, his voice hard, trying to inject a sense of victory into the appalling loss. The primary and secondary targets, the Mona and Eder dams, have been breached. The resulting floods are, by all accounts, catastrophic for the enemy war effort. You have struck a blow from which the Ruhr may not recover. Gibson doesn't seem to hear. He is staring at the map, at the red ribbon snaking into the heart of Germany. Wallace watches him. He watches the young pilots, shattered and aged by a single night. His bouncing bomb, his brilliant, eccentric, impossible idea born in a bathtub and proven at Reculver. It worked. It had performed its function with terrifying, world-changing precision. He had built the perfect weapon. But this, the silence, the empty chairs, the 53 dead, this was the cost. This was the application he had spoken of so calmly all those years ago. He had wanted to shorten the war, he had, and in the gray, unforgiving light of a Lincolnshire morning, he finally, fully understood the price of his genius. You are a professional documentary screenwriter about World War II.